Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. This is a presentation just to help you become a smart donor and increase impact for your donations. So as you progress through these videos, the most important points will be brought up first in the recording, and then as you go further in the recording, you will get more and more details. So you can stop at any time once you are done, but inshallah, there'll be a lot more details coming up, but the most important one will be brought up first in the presentation, inshallah. So let's take a look at what do we mean. So first and foremost, some caveats. First of all, zero admin is not zero admin. What does it mean to be zero admin? So there are a few ways that you can do it. If you're sending money to someone in need, that's a relative. And this is mostly tied towards Western charities, Western charitable projects who are serving the international needs. Most of these things would be relevant to that context and not necessarily the local projects. So yes, if you have someone who is in need, who is a relative of near or far, then there's an angle to just send money to them directly, and that may be the most efficient thing to do. However, even if you can do that under a charitable organization, you may have better efficiency because of the tax credits. But let's say if you have a relative running a project back home and you send them some funds and they, distribute food or what have you, that may seem like zero admin, but it may not be zero admin because you're losing on tax credits. I've explained this in other videos, but a quick, simple thing is when you give money to a charitable organization here in Canada, for example, you give them $100, they give you a tax receipt in return. If you give that tax receipt to CRA or your tax authority, you will usually get 40% back. So your $100, now you get those $40 back to you, which was your money that CRA had because they were withholding taxes or what have you, or you were supposed to pay taxes, however you look at it. So now from your pocket, only $60 has gone forward. You can choose to put that $40 back into the charitable organization. Or even if you don't, just think about it. The charitable organization got $100, but it only took $60 from your pocket. So can you match that if you were to do a project directly back home, sending money to your family members to buy food and distribute? Would you be able to match that? I don't think so, right? Because I don't think there's any charity with a 40% overhead. There may be, but not that I know of. So that's my first thing. Zero. Be careful about what does it mean to be zero admin. Who is paying for the other costs? And what are you losing in tax credits? So something to think about. Second point is don't give less. This presentation is not meant for you to give less than what you are usually giving. Give more, if anything. But this is just meant to make you aware of how you can make sure that that money that you're donating goes way further away and you have a higher impact. The third thing is that you might see different influencers, speakers, du'at, what have you, being on a charity platform. Now, I think it's a bit sad, but regardless of my personal feeling, that does not mean that those influencers or speakers have done due diligence on those charities. They may not have the time, they may not have the competency. Some do. But in general, I don't think that they're doing it. You can ask them. So if you are donating to a charity because of a speaker on that platform, ask them, have you done due diligence? Do you understand what is admin, what is overhead, what is fundraising? Do you understand how much is the overhead for this charity? So you know how sometimes people do these videos and they're talking about different investment options, and they always say this is not financial advice because they are not giving you financial advice. They do not have those legal capabilities to do that. But sadly, this is not the same for influencers advocating for a project. So let me help you understand the expense categories, especially from a CRA perspective, because what you and I may think of admin does not necessarily mean admin for CRA. So any expense that a charity does, it has to be classified into one of the four categories. Either it's an admin, right? Something that's needed to run the organization, or the expense is related to fundraising. It was carried out in hopes of getting more funds to raise funds and so on and so forth. There's also a category for other. So if your charity has a significant amount of funds that are categorized as expense category of other, that you may want to ask them, what is this about? And then the last category is programs. Things that are actually tied down to executing the programs that you paid for. So a lot of this is subjective. Okay, I'll give you some example. Let's say if a charity is holding a fundraiser with speakers and it costs them $300,000 to carry it out. it depends on how transparent the charity want it to be. From a CRA perspective, they can classify a good percentage of that event as programs, because they would say that, look, this program was spreading Islamic education. That's part of our programs. So we will say, for example, 33% of that was, our programs. And then they might say that, okay, the other was admin, and then the rest was fundraising, or however they do it. Like, the point is that there's a lot of flexibility in the way that the charities can classify an expense. Another example would be payment processing fees, right? So if it's 3% usually, or 2%, what have you, I would consider that to be an admin fee, right? But that's a lot of money. So many charities might classify it as programs or something else. So something to think about, that this classification is not rigid, and it depends on how the charity is classifying different costs. Executive staff, right? So your charity has executive staff. In my opinion, most of the work that 90% or 80% of the work that executive staff does is fundraising, in most organizations. But most charities would not classify it as such. So let's say if the executive is being paid 80,000, 90,000, 100,000, whatever, are they putting in that 100,000 in fundraising cost? Or they are saying 30,000 in fundraising and 30,000 in program implementation and 30,000 in admin. So it depends on how the charity is doing it. But you can do due diligence based on what is available, which is not a whole lot. But what my recommendation would be to ask your charities to be more transparent. So what I would like to see is for the charities to declare that, look, we collected X amount of funds for this project. And I haven't seen any charity doing that. They would tell you that, yes, we distributed 10,000 food packs, but I don't see them telling us that we collected $100,000 for food packs, and we have used this amount, and this amount is remaining. So in an ideal scenario, the charities would tell you how much was collected for a project, how much was sent over, how much was spent in Canada, right, for admin and fundraising, and from what was sent over, what is the admin breakdown like? Because obviously you have admin overseas as well. So all that is behind the scene. Most charities don't tell you, but even based on what is available, here are some of the things that you can do. So I'll show you how to see some information from the CRA website, and I will also put in the link for that. So let's take a look at that. So this is a CRA website, right? So first thing that you do is you go to this link, which is you will find in the video description, and you can search for your charity. Let's say if you search for Penny Appeal, it will tell you here, okay? You can search for whichever registered charity. Now I'm going to show you some data that's available to you from the CRA website. As I said, the further along you go in the video, the more details will come in. So you can see quick view and you can see full view. So in the quick view, now you can see that, look, they had received donations of $10 million. Unreceived donations, 660,000. So again, that's a lot of money that we are leaving on the table. We could have claimed receipts, right? Someone in the community could have claimed receipts, and they could have saved money or put it back into the charity. And then this is stuff that's coming from other charities. I wouldn't, look into it too much, because that's really some other charity giving you funds. This is government funds, other type of revenue. I don't know what that other type of revenue is. Probably explained in the detailed view, not sure. And now let's take a look at their expenses. So this is the program expenses, the charitable programs. Okay, that does not mean that $10 million were actually spent on the program. This may include some executive salaries. This may include salaries for managers who look at program reports and so on and so forth. This may include the transaction fees, but even from their own account, it is 67%. Management and administration in their own account is 13%. Fundraising in their own account is 8% of the expenses. This is not off the revenue, this is off the expenses. And then they gave away 10% of their was to give into other charities. So this is also a bit uncomfortable to me, like one charity collecting costs, and perhaps incurring expenses and then giving it to the other charity and whatnot. Anyways, so you have these level of details that are here. Now this can be used to compute further details if you want to, but at least you have this basic look. Maybe I'll make another video for how to compute more detailed ratios. And I'm going to put a link to that video in the video description here. But for now, let's leave it at that. I'm going to show you something else. So you have websites like, let's say, Charity Intelligence, because they even look at better data like here. So you go on Charity Intelligence, and if you look at Penny Appeal, and again, this is just one charity because I can't make a video with 10 charities. So this is going to tell you that 49 cents are going to the cause, right? Based on other details that you can read up here and whatnot, right? Because one of the things that you don't want to include in this is, in-kind donations, because that really messes up the ratio. So Charity Intelligence does a pretty good job at it, and they take out in-kind donations so that you have more realistic or more intelligent ratios to help you with. All right, now if I go look for something else, and you want to see which year is it talking about as well. So Islamic Relief, for example, and this was last updated. Somewhere you will see the last updated as well. So they are saying it's 85% to the cause. That's what they, officially report as well. But then there are other details that you can read up about. But yeah, so I think this is just to get things started. And yeah, just to compare something else. For example, I was looking at ICNA. Yeah, so this is for ICNA. And these looks pretty good number to me. I mean, there's still, there are overhead, there will be overhead, but overall looking much better. Anyway, so ask these questions, think, you don't have to support like $10 to every charity. Figure out one or two that does the work, talk to them, ask for more transparency, ask for more details. And there are other organizations as well that are coming up with much less overhead. They may not be as fancy, they may not be doing big fundraising events, or they may have fundraising costs collected from friends and family members and what have you. So if your goal is to feed poor people, let's say in Pakistan or Egypt or Syria or Turkey or wherever, also think about what is the cost of having it done, right? So you can be more efficient with your donation, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Once again, give more, don't give less, but be efficient. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.